Alright, what's good guys? So, over the last couple of weeks we got the Derby done and dusted, stripped out the Corona, got it all ready for the Derby, and didn't do so great in the Derby because lost drive to the front wheels and shit show. Didn't help that on the first turn I got an a matte black AU Falcon straight to the side of me, and it fucking bent the whole car, and I was pretty much dragging the arse end around for the rest of the race. So, what I have been up to over the last few days is getting Clifford the Big Red Ute a waff and a reg. It hasn't had a waff and a reg since February this year, I suppose. It's now got a waff. I had to replace a couple of ball joints down in that corner and also an inner tie rod rack end. Also had to put the front bumper back on and take the front mount intercooler off, which is shit because I hate that front bumper. To me, that front bumper just makes the front end of the ute look far too curvy when generally it is a pretty square truck. So without the front bumper, I think it looks a whole lot more staunch. So I'm going to go ahead now, take the front bumper off and put our Mitsubishi Evo 8 front mount intercooler back on and dial the fuel back up again. Okay, I've just taken the charge piping off. Now I've literally got to go through it and remember in which order all this piping went, because it's not factory stuff and there's just shitloads of random turns and corners and hose clamps everywhere. I can't even remember how I had it together before I took it off, so I'll go off camera now, figure it out and come back. It's made out of bits of everything. So what I've got here is, this is off a VR4, Mitsubishi VR4 intercooler piping, some silicone joiners from Super Cheap. This is like not even silicone joiner charge piping, this is just I don't know, some rubber hosing that's the right size that I found. Got some random bit of intake piping there with the bracket still on it and everything. Here with the shiny stuff out the front are the two corners that I cut out of a Holden Rodeo bull bar, so that fucking works quite well. And also the intercoolers off a Mitsubishi Evo 8. It's definitely a rangy intercooler setup, but it works and it works well. So I found it dropped EGTs by probably about 100 degrees, which then meant I could increase the fuel and increase the boost again. EGTs being exhaust gas temperatures, which in diesel world is basically how you measure the air-fuel ratio. I've got a probe straight into the exhaust turbine housing, and that goes into a little digital readout inside the cab. Yeah, happy days. So I've got the front mount back on there now. Now I just need to put on my spotlights and my pieces of checker plate and a license plate. Also, while I was doing all that intercooler stuff, I had a look at my air filter. It is filthy, dirty as fuck. Look at it in there. So it's like covered in oil and then dust is stuck to it and all this other muck and shit. And also that rubber piping is pretty shit. Like, I've used insulation tape just to try and seal a hole. So that's rubbish, and I've replaced it with this. So I've got a nice clean air filter here. A little bit of rust. Turned it up the other way, so it looks a bit better. No, it still looks shit. So it's a hell of a lot cleaner. It is in pretty good condition, and I've got this nice blue silicone hose now too, so it looks a bit more fancy under there, and hopefully it'll be breathing some clean air. Give the old intercooler a quick clean. Yeah, boy. Alright, there it is. The front end back together the way I like it. So, because it's such a square truck, I think this nice square front end like really suits it, gives it a staunch image. That bumper to me is just too curvy. It makes the front end look quite bubbly compared to the rest of the truck being square, because this is the old shape Courier, so it's the UF chassis, which started in 1986, so that ran from 1986 all the way to 1998 as the Ford Courier, the Mazda B2000, the B2200, the B2500, the B2600, the B1800. many different platforms of this chassis and body came out. The last 2 years, 97 and 98, they started being, or they were made available with the 2.5 diesel non-turbo, which is this one here. And then I turboed it with all the parts off of, well, not all the parts, but some of the parts off a 2004 Ford Courier diesel turbo. Being that last 97-98 year, it also came with a facelift front end, so you got different grille, headlights, indicators, different bonnet, and also a nicer dashboard. And you got this rounder front bumper. So this front bumper was also on the UN shape from 99 till about 2001, 2002, before it went to the facelift UN. And then it got a complete overhaul front end, chrome bumper and all that. So that bumper to me, it's too round, it's bubbly. This truck, it's old, it's square, and that just doesn't do this truck any justice. Just to show you what I'm talking about, this one here is a UF. So we've got an old UF Ford Courier here. What year is this one? No rego tag in it. But this is likelihood a 1988, could be a 92, 91. Same cab, although this one's a cab plus, but it's just got a different front end. So I believe the guards are still the same, but different bonnet, lights and bumper, but still the same chassis, same cab, and also, like I said, it's got the older interior, older dashboard, and also came out carbureted petrol, just junk. But now that I've got the intercooler back on, I can go ahead and increase the fuel. Now, quite a few people have asked me how to increase the fuel on a WL or WLT. People message me on Facebook. Fuck knows how they get my name through my YouTube channel, but is what it is, I suppose. People message me all the time. People add comments on real old videos. So I'm going to go ahead and increase it now, and it's easy, man. It's easy, and it's the same for the later model turbos, the earlier non-turbos. All the injector pumps are much the same, except for the turbo version has got a what do you call it? It's like a rising rate fuel pressure regulator, boost compensator. So it's just a little diaphragm on the top of here that's run vacuum. So as the fuel increases, it adds more fuel, and what that does is it stops black smoke being emitted when boost isn't on in the factory turbo models. Because this is a non-turbo and I plus T'd it, doesn't have a boost compensator, so as you turn the fuel up, as soon as you stomp it, it just dumps as much fuel as it can into the engine, and then boost comes on and the black smoke clears. I think it runs faster that way without the boost compensator, because there's just a huge dump of fuel in there. That big dump of fuel pumps out heaps of black smoke. That black smoke spools up the turbo as quick as it can, and boom, cut cat, see you later. First thing you want to do is grab a 13mm. Head over to the injector pump. Here's my injector pump right here. Yours will look very much similar if you're doing this to a WL or WLT. Now on the back of it, there is this. So we've got a threaded piece of rod, sort of, with a flathead screwdriver tip on the end of it, and a 13mm lock nut on it. Now, if no one's done this before, they have a little cone piece of metal over the top of them, so you can't play with them from factory. What you're going to need to do is just get some pliers, some snips, and just rip it off. I ripped mine off a long time ago. You can't really take them off without breaking them because they're clipped on so well, so just tear it off so you can expose this, and then get your 13mm, unlock the locking nut, and you can generally just wind it by hand. So as you do the screw up or turn it in, you raise the pressure and add more fuel, and as you turn it anti-clockwise or undo it, you lower the fuel pressure and add less fuel. When you're doing this, if you are doing this to a turbo one, just do it slowly, like probably go like half a turn at a time, see how much black smoke comes out, see how it goes, because one full turn is actually a decent amount of fuel. And you'll also notice that as you do this up, you'll also raise the idle. So after turning the fuel pressure up, you're going to have to come over here and undo this one here and loosen that bolt out a bit, so it puts a bit more slack on that, so you lower your idle. As you can hear, my idle's gone far too high, so I'm now going to have to drop that down a bit. that straw off. Drop the idle to somewhere nice, and now do up both your locking nuts. So there you go, it's that easy to raise the fuel on one of these things, and the more fuel you put into it, naturally boost is going to creep also, being that the turbo is driven off exhaust gases, and adding more fuel is adding more exhaust gases. So the turbo is going to spool up quicker, it's going to run more boost, and you're definitely going to feel power gains straight off the bat. Of course you're going to lose some of your fuel economy, but fuck, they're diesel, they're cheap to run anyway, aren't they? So if you are looking at raising your fuel and playing around with your injector pump like I've just sort of shown you, I really don't advise you do it without having an EGT gauge. An EGT gauge measures how hot the exhaust gases are, exhaust gas temperatures, and it's that probe that I showed you in the turbo before over here. And my exhaust gas temperature gauge is just this little bugger right here. So that 000, and then it'll read 20. 20 stands for 200. So at the moment, well, at the moment it's cold. 200's the lowest reading, and 1200's the highest reading. And if you start running your exhaust gas temps too high by adding more fuel, you run the risk of cracking the head or melting the piston. But yeah, the exhaust gas temps in this normally sit around 350 to 380 when doing 100 k's, and when foot flatting it all the way to about 160, 150, or foot flatting it up a hill or giving it a real good workout, I can usually see them jump up to somewhere around 900, even over 1000. I know that 700's where you shouldn't really start going over, 700 being the melting point of aluminium, and being that there's an alloy head on this, you don't really want to melt that. But I figure as long as it's not sitting on those hot temps for too long, then it's just sort of like running your hand across a lighter, you know. It's not enough to sit there and really heat soak the head, but it is dangerous. But fuck it, you know, live life on the edge. Part of adding the intercooler, like I said, the intercooler helps keep EGTs down, especially at night. So on a cold night, I can see like a 5 to 10 degree atmospheric drop. I read that on my gauge as being at least 50 to 100 degrees in EGTs. So the colder the intercooler, the charge air is colder, it's more dense. It means it can have a colder burn with more fuel, and it can run a whole lot more efficiently, more power, less exhaust gas temps, and they just generally run a whole lot happier. Alright, so I've just gone for a drive, put some fuel in it, and there's definitely a boost leak coming out of somewhere. I can hear the whistle, and it's only making about 15, 16 pound of boost. Should be about 20, 21 I would think. And yeah, I can hear that boost leak, so I'm going to go get some hose clamps from the shed quickly, because I've got to go on a bit of a road trip today to go pick up a winch bar for the Hilux. So I need to sort this out because I've got about 6 hours drive ahead of me. Right, we've tied into the hose clamps all up. I've grabbed a few spare ones. Now heading away to pick up this winch bar. Fuck, it was hotter than a meth pipe on payday before. I was sweating balls. And now it's pissing down with rain. So this is some pretty fucking odd weather, but I guess that's spring for you. So this winch bar is for the Hilux. We've also got a 12,000 pound winch for it. Should be sick. Let's hit it. Alright, so I made it sweet as, 2 hours away. It's running a bit like shit though. The boost is a bit all over the show. There's definitely a leak somewhere or something. I've tightened all the hose clamps up, all my front ones, and still leaking, so that's a bit shit. What we came to pick up, this winch bar, scored it for 150 bucks. So sick deal. It's got a little bit of damage here, but we'll fix that up. Easy enough, or I might just even leave it. But that's definitely going to go on the Hilux. It's all winch ready inside here, so there has been winches bolted in there before, and it's got some mounts for a Nissan Navara, I believe. $150 winch bar though, and those are about 1,500 bucks on Trade Me, so sick. I'm heading to the shed now because this thing should be making around 20 psi, and it's not since we put the intercooler back on, so I think there's a boost leak, so we're going to go check that. But I'll show you how much boost it's running. It's a weird leak. Boost goes up, making good boost, and then it just dies back, fucking right back, all the way back to 10 pound, and as a result my EGTs go way up. Alright, so here's what's happening. Anything under 3000 RPM, I'm making good boost. As soon as I go over 3000 RPM, boost is dropping back to like 10 psi, 11 psi, sometimes 9. But it's still running high fuel, so it's over fueling like fuck. So it's making good boost at low RPM, it's going alright, and then I get over 3 grand and all of a sudden the boost drops off, but the fuel stays way up there, and I can see in the mirror it is rolling coal hard and the EGTs just skyrocket. So I'm not sure why that's doing that. We've tried finding boost leaks, we haven't changed anything. All I did was take the intake charge piping off to put on the front bumper, because I had to take off the intercooler so I could get a warrant. I've then gone and put the intercooler back on, the charge piping, and now it's doing this. So fuck, I don't know what's happening. The only other thing I've done to it is put that pod filter on with that nice silicone hose. So I'm going to pop the bonnet now, and fuck, that can fuck right off. Alright, so there's our pod filter. So it's just running nothing off the turbo at the moment. There's a turbo right there. Not the greatest idea because you could end up fucking the blades inside it, but it's too dark to see them anyway. The only reason I've taken that off is because this is the only real thing that we've changed since it started running like shit and not making boost, because I found my other air filter was all clogged up with oil because the crankcase breather hose was right on top of it. Nice. So it got all oily and covered in dirt, so you would have thought that was when it ran shit, but as soon as I put this on, it's ran like shit. So close the hood and come on. Well, I've only just taken off in first from the car park where we were just parked, and even in first gear I just hit like 25 pound, so fuck knows what's wrong with that air filter. 20, there's 20 psi. We're humdinging now, solid 20. So you can see it spikes a little bit to sort of 23, 22, 23 psi, and then buttons back off once the wastegate actuator can sort it all out. So it's sort of holding about a steady 21 psi, 20 to 21, and it's probably spiking to 22, 23. Oh, that is such a good sight. Fucking bang on.